Hey, this is Aaron. Today I have a good question from Steph. Steph wants to know, why do many mechanics recommend replacing the regular air filter of a vehicle before the cabin air filter? There's good reason for this, and it's relatively complicated. The first thing to know is the difference between your engine air filter and your cabin air filter. The engine air filter, or regular air filter, is the filter that air goes through to clean it before it goes into the engine. Your engine requires three things to run. An engine requires fuel, usually gasoline in a car. It requires air. Air is there to allow combustion to happen, and it requires spark, assuming it's a gasoline engine. So the spark sets off the burn. The burn is created when the fuel and the air are mixed. So that creates that burn. So the air going into the engine needs to be cleaned. The dust needs to be filtered out of it. The crap needs to be pulled out of it so that you're not sending a bunch of junk into the engine. Uh, that is the job of the engine air filter. So these come in different sizes, different shapes. They're usually square. Some are round. Some are kind of a tube. Whatever shape they are, they're built for your car. And that is a very important thing for the engine's operation. Normally, these filters have to be swapped out about every oil change or every other oil change, depending on your interval. So in most parts of the U.S., you're going to be changing that filter probably every 6,000 or 8,000 miles. Some people will need to change it a little more often. If you live in a very dusty environment, like say the Southwest, then you may need to change it more often. If you live in a cleaner environment, say, I don't know, where's there a clean environment in the U.S.? Alaska, then maybe you don't need to change it as often. Regardless, the filter does need to be changed out. Otherwise, it will, one, clog and not allow enough air into the engine, and two, it could start allowing garbage, particulates to go into the engine. In either case, you're going to need to change out that filter. Now, the cabin air filter is different. It filters it filters the cabin. It filters air that comes in and goes into the cabin. So the air that goes through your air conditioning system, through your heater, through the air that you're feeling inside the cabin. This filter is usually a one or two stage filter. So you'll either have just one that pulls out maybe dust, and that's it, or you'll have one that filters out in two stages. It filters out the dust and stuff, and then does a micron filter or a submicron filter to pull out even more stuff and maybe scrub the air so it doesn't stink or something. Those are usually in luxury vehicles, but you might find it in your everyday vehicle. Some vehicles have no cabin air filter at all. That's totally not uncommon either, especially in the lower end of the market, the cheaper vehicles. So that even if that air filter stops working, even if that air filter gets clogged, you're still going to be fine. Your car will run. You might have to breathe, the guy ahead of you is farts. I don't know. You might have to breathe, but that's the stuff you're going to be breathing because you're walking around out in the outdoors anyway. So the regular air filter, the engine air filter, is far more important than the cabin air filter. So most mechanics only recommend that are usually recommending that engine air filter more often. Cabin air filters will have much longer intervals and changes depending on the manufacturer. Some of them are 12, 15, and 15,000 miles, so it could be a very long time before it gets changed. So filter changes are also a regular part of maintenance. A mechanic will usually recommend a filter change on, say, an oil change. So you go in for an oil change while they're under the hood and they're letting that oil drain or they're doing their thing. They'll open up the filter can, which will be a container that your filter goes in to allow the air pass through. They'll open up that and they'll look at the filter. They'll just inspect it. If the filter's looking dirty, they'll recommend it be replaced. Mechanics usually, when they're doing that, they're also checking other fluids, so they might let you know if you're low on, say, power steering, brake, or some other fluid. They might also recommend a recommend a coolant flush or something like that. But the most common recommendation is that filter. And that's because, one, for the shop, it's an easy thing to do, it's relatively cheap, and it's kind of just a moneymaker. For you to do it yourself, you would go down to the store, you would buy a filter. It's going to run you anywhere from probably $5-6 all the way up to maybe 25 or 30, depending on how much of a filter you want to get. So if you want to go to the expensive end or the cheap end of the spectrum, and also what kind of vehicle you have. So, and then most vehicles, the engine air filter doesn't even require tools to replace. It's usually little pop things. You open it up, you pull it out, you put it in. If I think of it before I do this video, I will make another little video showing how that's done really quickly. Sometimes it can be complicated. You might need a screwdriver. But to do it yourself is very, very easy. But it's a lot more convenient if the mechanic's already under there to pay the extra 20 bucks or whatever it is and just have him do it. So there you go. That is why the engine air filter is always recommended to be replaced, and they may or may not even remember that you have a cabin filter. So that's what I got. If you have a question, if you want me to try to answer it, you should just hit me up. Get me in the comments down there. Send me an email, find me on the website, hit me up on Facebook, whatever. Just find me. Ask me your question. I'll be sure to answer it. Sometimes it'll be short, sometimes it'll be long, but I'll always have an answer. Usually it's going to be right. All right, that's it. This has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.